I wouldn't have been able to do that if it wasn't for Family Hustle.
Right.
And it does come with some, it's some adversity.
Mm-hmm.
It's some adversity to come with that. People get in your business.
Yeah.
T.I.'s son, King Harris, has been arrested after not appearing in court and some other things connected to his action.
The internet didn't just break. It shattered into a million pieces the moment this hit. Because what we're about to unpack isn't just celebrity gossip. It's a full-blown, generational detonation inside one of hip-hop's most guarded dynasties. And at the center of it all, T.I. and the son he raised in front of the world, King Harris, now standing face-to-face with a truth so explosive, it could rewrite everything we thought we knew. It started as a whisper, a rumor buried deep in private group chats, encrypted DMs, and late-night voice notes passed between insiders who swore they'd never go public. But then, something slipped. A document. A file. A piece of paper that wasn't supposed to exist outside a locked drawer suddenly found its way into the wild. And not just any paper. Alleged paternity results. Cold. Clinical. Unforgiving. The kind of document that doesn't just suggest doubt. It declares war on identity itself. And then came the reaction. Because sources claimed the moment T.I. caught wind of what King Harris had done, secret tests, quiet investigations, whispers behind closed doors, everything erupted. Voices raised, doors slammed, phones thrown. One insider described it as a meltdown so intense, it felt like the walls were shaking. Another claimed there was a recording. Yes, a recording of a confrontation so raw, so emotional, it could end careers if it ever leaks. But here's where it gets even darker. Because this isn't just about a test. This is about years of buried tension, of subtle distance, of questions that never quite got answered. Fans are now re-watching old clips, dissecting every interaction, every glance, every awkward pause between father and son like it's evidence in a courtroom. And suddenly, things aren't lining up the way they used to. Social media? Absolute chaos. Clips are going viral at lightning speed. Hashtags exploding. Fan theories spiraling into full-blown conspiracies. Some are claiming this has been hidden in plain sight for years. Others insist this is just the beginning, that more documents, more leaks, more secrets are already queued up, waiting to drop. And right in the middle of it all is King Harris, no longer the kid in the background, no longer playing along with the narrative. Now he's asking the question that has everyone on edge. What if everything I was told wasn't real? Because if these papers are legit, if even a fraction of what insiders are hinting it turns out to be true, then this isn't just a family dispute. This is a complete collapse of a legacy. And the most terrifying part? We're only seeing the surface. Because multiple sources are now hinting that what's already leaked is nothing compared to what's coming next. What happened next didn't just escalate. It detonated in real time, and the fallout hit faster than anyone could contain it. Because within hours of those alleged documents surfacing, King Harris didn't go silent. He went loud. Not subtly loud. Not cryptically loud. We're talking scorched earth, no turning back, burn it all down loud. An Instagram live popped up out of nowhere. No warning, no promo, just a shaky camera, heavy breathing, and King staring straight into the lens like he had nothing left to lose. Viewers flooded in by the tens of thousands within seconds. Comments flying so fast they blurred into white noise. And then he said it. Not cleanly, not neatly, but clearly enough to freeze the entire internet mid-scroll. I need answers, real ones. That was it. 8 words. But the tone? It wasn't curiosity. It was anger, hurt, betrayal. The kind of emotional pressure that builds for years and finally cracks in public. And just like that, every rumor suddenly felt real. Behind the scenes, insiders say T.I. was already in motion. Calls being made. People being summoned. One source described the energy inside his inner circle as pure emergency mode. Phones lighting up nonstop. Advisors scrambling. Because this wasn't just a family matter anymore. It was a full-blown public relations nightmare unfolding by the second. And then, the alleged audio leak. No one knows exactly who dropped it first, but within minutes, it was everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, private blogs. A grainy, muffled clip, but the voices? Instantly recognizable. One voice raised, sharp, commanding. The other, defiant, unfiltered, shaking with emotion. "You think this is funny?" The older voice snaps. "I think I deserve the truth," the younger one fires back. Sources claim it was T.I. and King Harris in a confrontation that spiraled completely out of control. There's a crash in the background. Something slamming. A third voice trying, and failing, to calm things down. And then the line that sent shockwaves through the internet. "Then tell me why the papers say different." That was the moment everything changed. Because suddenly, this wasn't just speculation anymore. This wasn't just internet talk. Now there was a narrative, a storyline, a possible receipt, even if unverified, that people could latch on to, dissect, and amplify. And amplify they did. Within an hour, hashtags were trending globally. Fan pages turned into investigation hubs. Old interviews resurfaced. Clips slowed down, zoomed in, analyzed like forensic evidence. People started pointing out moments, awkward jokes, tense body language, things that once seemed harmless but now felt loaded with meaning. And then came the celebrity reactions. Subtle at first. A tweet here. A vague Instagram story there. But the tone? Oh, the tone was loud. Side eyes. Cryptic quotes about truth always coming to light. One insider claimed a major artist texted someone in King's camp saying, "If this is real, it's bigger than music." Meanwhile, King Harris wasn't backing down. If anything, he doubled down. Another post. This time just a black screen with white text. "Stop telling me how to feel about something you don't know." No names. No explanation. But everyone knew exactly what it was about. And here's where it gets even messier. Because while the internet was busy tearing everything apart, a new rumor started creeping in. Quiet at first, almost whispered. Allegedly, those paternity papers weren't the only documents floating around. There were talks of timelines, hospital records, even claims of a second test, one that might contradict the first. Confusion turned into chaos. Which version was real? Which one was fake? Were any of them legit? Or was this entire situation being manipulated from the inside? Sources close to T.I. insist this is all a smear attempt. That nothing has been confirmed. That the family is handling it privately. But if that's true, why does everything feel so public? And then silence. Out of nowhere, King's live ended. His post stopped. His page went dark for nearly 2 hours. No updates. No explanations. Nothing. Until one final upload appeared. A photo. Blurry. Cropped. But unmistakable. A document sitting on a table with a name partially visible and a single line circled in red. The percentage. Not 100%. Not even close. And before anyone could screenshot the full thing, it was deleted. Gone. But not before thousands had already seen enough to ask the question no one in that family seems ready to answer. If that number was real, then who's been lying all these years? The deletion didn't calm anything down. It poured gasoline on a fire that was already ripping through the internet at full speed. Because once that blurry image vanished, the screenshots multiplied. Enhanced versions. Zoomed-in edits. Side-by-side comparisons. People weren't just watching anymore. They were investigating, decoding, hunting for truth like digital detectives convinced they'd just stumbled onto the biggest celebrity cover-up in years. And then, right when it felt like the chaos might plateau, it spiked again. A second leak surfaced. Not a photo this time. A message thread, allegedly pulled from a private conversation tied to King Harris's inner circle. The timestamps? Recent. The tone? Panicked. One message stood out, screenshotted and reposted thousands of times within minutes. He wasn't supposed to see that yet. That single line hit harder than any document, because it implied planning, timing, secrets still unfolding behind the curtain. And suddenly, this whole situation didn't feel accidental anymore. It felt orchestrated, like something had been building for years and finally slipped out too soon. Insiders began whispering about a meeting. Not a casual family talk, something bigger. A closed-door confrontation that allegedly happened just hours before King went live. One source claimed T.I. demanded everyone present hand over their phones. Another said voices could be heard from outside the room. Raised, emotional, desperate. And then came the line that's now being repeated everywhere. You think a piece of paper changes blood? No one has confirmed who said it. But the implication? Devastating. Because while one side was clinging to legacy, the other was demanding proof. Meanwhile, King Harris re-emerged, and this time, he wasn't alone. a new video surfaced, recorded from what looked like the passenger seat of a car. Dim lighting, streetlights flashing across his face, and next to him, an unidentified voice. Calm, older, measured. "You always felt it, didn't you?" the voice says. King doesn't answer right away. He just stares ahead, jaw tight, eyes heavy. Then quietly, "I knew something wasn't right." That clip spread like wildfire, not just because of what was said, but because of what it suggested. This wasn't a sudden breakdown. This wasn't a random rebellion. This was something deeper, something that had been sitting, festering, growing stronger over time. And then, the timeline theory exploded. Users started digging through years of interviews, appearances, even old episodes and public records. Dates were compared, travel schedules questioned. One viral thread claimed there were inconsistencies surrounding key moments, birth timelines, public appearances, things that didn't quite align the way they should. Was it reaching? Maybe. But in the middle of a storm like this, maybe is all it takes. Then came the celebrities. Not direct statements. No one wanted to be the first to say it outright. But the reactions? Loud in their silence. A well-known figure liked a post questioning the situation. Another shared a quote about truth revealing itself in time. Even a longtime associate of T.I. reportedly unfollowed multiple family members within hours. Subtle moves. But in this climate, they spoke volumes. Behind the scenes, the pressure was building fast. Brand partners allegedly started making calls. Management teams scrambling to contain the narrative. Because if this crossed from rumor into confirmation, it wouldn't just be emotional damage. It could be financial, reputational, irreversible. And right at the center of it all, the relationship between father and son was reportedly reaching a breaking point. One insider described a moment, unverified, but repeated enough to gain traction, where T.I. allegedly tried to shut everything down with one final demand. Take it all down. Now. But the response? No, short. Cold. Final. That refusal changed everything. Because from that point on, this wasn't a misunderstanding anymore. It was a standoff. A public, emotional, high-stakes battle between truth and control, between identity and legacy. And neither side looked willing to back down. Then, just when it seemed like the situation couldn't get more volatile, a new name entered the storm. An alleged insider. Not a celebrity. Not a family member. Someone behind the scenes. Someone claiming to have been present during key moments, years ago. They didn't go on camera. They didn't reveal their face. But they dropped a voice note. Distorted. Masked. But clear enough to understand. "You're all looking at the wrong story," the voice says. The papers? That's not even the biggest secret. That line didn't just shake the narrative, it shattered it. Because if the paternity question wasn't the main revelation, then what was? The voice continued, hinting at agreements, arrangements, things that were never meant to go public. Words that suggested this situation might be bigger than a single test result, bigger than a single relationship. And then, just as quickly as it appeared, the account vanished. Deleted. Gone without a trace. But not before millions had already heard enough to realize one thing. We are nowhere near the bottom of this story. And just as the internet was trying to piece together this new layer of mystery, a final, chilling update dropped from King Harris's account. No caption, no explanation, just a single image. A childhood photo, with one face circled. Not his. That image didn't just land. It detonated across every corner of the internet like a shockwave no one saw coming. Because the second King Harris posted that childhood photo with a single face circled, the narrative shifted from chaos into something far more dangerous. Direction. People weren't guessing anymore. They were pointing, zooming in, enhancing, comparing facial features like forensic analysts. Who was that person? Why circle them? And why now? Right when everything was already spiraling out of control. Within minutes, side-by-side images flooded timelines. Old photos, event footage, background appearances that suddenly didn't feel random anymore. Theories stacked on top of theories, each one more explosive than the last. Some claimed the circled figure had been around the family for years. Others insisted this person had quietly disappeared from public view at a very specific time. And then came the whisper that flipped everything on its head. What if that's the real connection? No confirmation, no names, just a question, but it hit like a thunderclap. Because suddenly, The story wasn't just about whether T.I. was or wasn't the biological father. Now people were asking something even more unsettling. If not him, then who? And more importantly, who knew? Behind the scenes, insiders say the pressure inside the family reached a boiling point. One source described a late-night confrontation so intense it crossed every line that hadn't already been crossed. Raised voices turned into shouting. Shouting turned into accusations. And accusations? They turned into something that reportedly left the entire room in stunned silence. "You let me believe this my whole life." That line, allegedly said by King Harris, spread like wildfire once it leaked. Not because it was confirmed, but because it felt real. Too real. The kind of statement that doesn't come from rumors. It comes from years of buried doubt finally breaking through. And then the breakdown. Multiple sources claim T.I., known for control, composure, and command, completely lost it behind closed doors. Not anger this time, something deeper. Frustration, desperation, even fear. Because this wasn't just about defending a reputation anymore. It was about holding together a narrative that might already be collapsing beyond repair. Phones were reportedly taken. Conversations shut down. People told to stay silent. But in 2026, silence doesn't stop anything. It amplifies it. Because right when things went quiet publicly, the leaks got louder privately. A new audio clip began circulating in smaller circles. Not fully released, just fragments. But enough to send chills through anyone who heard it. A voice, again, allegedly tied to someone close, saying, "This was never supposed to come out like this." Followed by another voice, quieter, almost breaking. "We were trying to protect him." Protect him from what? That question hit harder than anything before it. Because protection implies danger. It implies there was something to hide, not just from the public, but from King himself. And just as the internet started spiraling into that possibility, the biggest twist yet dropped. A legal angle. Rumors began surfacing that this situation might not stay online, that it could move into something far more serious. Documents, filings, challenges. Questions about identity, inheritance, even name rights started creeping into discussions. Quietly at first, then louder. Because if the foundation of a family name is shaken, everything built on top of it becomes unstable. And that's when the industry really started reacting. Not vague posts this time. Not subtle likes. Real distance. Associates pulling back. Collaborations quietly paused. Invitations rescheduled. Because no one wanted to be caught in the blast radius of something this unpredictable. Something this unresolved. Meanwhile, King Harris returned one more time. No live. No rant. No long explanation. Just text. "I'm done being quiet." That was it. But it didn't feel like the end of a statement. It felt like the beginning of something much bigger. Because minutes later, another post followed. Then deleted. But not before people caught it. 3 words. "I have proof." And just like that, everything froze again. Because now it wasn't about rumors. It wasn't about theories. It was about what might come next. Receipts. Evidence. Something concrete enough to either confirm everything or destroy the entire narrative in one move. Behind closed doors, insiders say there's panic. Real panic. Emergency meetings. Legal consultations. Crisis teams being activated. Because if King drops whatever he's hinting at, there may be no coming back from it. And the most chilling part? No one, not the fans, not the insiders, not even those closest to the situation, knows which way it's going to go. Is this the moment the truth finally comes out? Or the moment everything falls apart? Because right now, one thing is painfully clear. This isn't just a family dispute anymore. It's a ticking clock. And whatever happens next is going to change everything. If you've made it this far, you already know you're watching something unfold that people will be talking about for years. But here's the reality. This story is still developing in real time, and the next update could drop at any second and flip everything you just heard upside down. So don't just sit back and miss it. Hit like right now if you felt that tension, because the more this video moves, the faster we can bring you the next leak, the next twist, the next piece of the puzzle. Drop your take in the comments. Who do you believe? Is this truth finally breaking through? Or is something even bigger being hidden behind the scenes? And most importantly, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because if those proof receipts actually surface, you do not want to be the one hearing about it late. In a story this explosive, Being early isn't just better, it's everything. Stay locked in.